Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese and welcome to the Scrapbook Showgram. Fall is my favorite season of the entire year. The lighting is so great. I tend to take more photos than I do the whole rest of the year just because the lighting is so great. And I have a friend who said Thanksgiving was his favorite holiday. And when I asked him why, he said, you don't have to worry about buying presents for everybody. You don't have to worry about getting dressed up in a costume. You don't have to worry about the weight you're going to gain from all the candy. He said it really is pretty much just about family. And I thought, what a perfect thing to do, a little Thanksgiving scrapbook. So here is the scrapbook that we're going to look at today. It's a mini book that is actually, it's in a little sleeve, a three-dimensional sleeve. And when I pull it out, you can see that all of the pages are really oversized tags. So on the front is a little series of pumpkins that we'll look at how to create. And then I've used the same gray in the cover to create like divider pages. So this will indicate that this is for 2012. And then I'll have a couple of like group shots of lots of people together. So I have two or three, they're not separating right now, but there's 2 or 3 pages at least here in this section. There'll be a divider for the menu, and then there will be a divider page where everybody, I'm going to be able to hand out a tag to each person at Thanksgiving for them to write what they're thankful for. And then I'll make sure that we get lots of pictures that include everybody so that on each page there will be a picture of each guest from Thanksgiving, and then on the back in their handwriting will be their note about what they're thankful for. This style of scrapbook, because it's just bound with this simple metal ring binder, it is so easy to take it open this up, take it apart, hand out the tags to anybody who's coming, have extra in case somebody messes up for one reason or another, doesn't like their handwriting or spell something wrong, and then when you're done you get them all back, and then after you print your photos, you add the photos to each of the things. It is just a fun and an easy little book. To begin with, let me slide this back in and show you. We're going to start with this little case that all the tags are housed in. So let me bring up the parts and pieces and I'll show you what I did. I started with the gray paper, and what I did is I cut gray paper so that this dimension, the width is 5.5, the length is 10.5. And then I went back, and here's how you score it. Because I have enough pages that the width of my holder needs to be a 1/2 inch wide, that means that I have a 1/2 inch that I'm going to score at the bottom. And then I have to have a 1/2 inch on the left edge. I came in 4.5 inches. And then I have another 1/2 inch, which is right in the middle. I went another 4.5 inches, and I have another 1/2 inch. So that's how it's divided up. You use the score marks to do your folds. So I'm going to fold the bottom because it's the longest, narrowest. It's the fold that is trickier. So it's easiest to do the bottom fold first. Now open it back up, and then go back and crease on each of these vertical score marks that you've created to create this holder. So once you've got it all scored, here's the last fold, all scored and all folded. It's time to actually put it together. I think it's easiest if I cut out a few little triangles, and I'll turn this so that I can cut them, and I'll tell you what I mean. For the middle, it's going to go together best, and I've gone back with a white pen and I've marked this just to make it a little bit easier for you to see. But what I'm going to do is cut out a little triangle around that white edge so that when I fold this up, I don't have any little pieces overlapping, sticking over the edges. So I've just cut a little triangle out there that you can see like that. I'm going to use that white as a guide and do the same thing on both sides of that white line. Remember, the white line is just where I went right over my score, the score line. I've done it there. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do the same thing on this one edge, and once again on both sides of the white line, cut that little V out. And then, because I don't need so many, as I close this up, you can see that these are going to overlap. I don't need to have this overlap with another one. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out this last one all together. Instead of cutting out a V, I'm going to actually just trim away this last little piece. That way I'm not just doing one little strip on top of another little strip. Now, in order for this to, I'll do it dry first, a dry run, so you can see I'm going to fold all these in. So if you look at how it's going to go together, it's going to go together like so, with all of the edges all tucked in like this. And so what I'm going to do, you can see what I need to do is I need to put adhesive on this edge here and on this edge here. So I'll open it up and I'll put adhesive along here and here, and then that's going to close like so, and then I'm going to put adhesive on this edge of this one. So I will go ahead and tuck my edges in. So as I close this up, this is where the scores come in really handy. I think I'll do the side first. That way I can take this and I can push it in. You know what, I can see I have adhesive. I put adhesive so that would be on the outside, and I'd rather have it on the inside. So I'm rubbing off the adhesive off of this, and I'm going to go ahead, close this up, place that inside like so, because I'd rather look at a solid edge rather than just that little lip. And I'm pushing down so that I get nice adhesive. Of course, I didn't use as much adhesive as I'm suggesting that you do. And then for this edge, I need to find where I've placed my adhesive, because I can fold this in any number of ways. It's not there. It's inside. It's right there. So that means I need to tuck this one in first and then tuck this one up. And in order to get this to stick, the best thing to do is to take your stack of cards. So cut your tags first, even though that's not what I told you to do. We started with the holder, but do them, have them ready to slide in so that as you stick this holder together, you can push and really get nice adhesive on that base. Sometimes instead of using my roller adhesive, I'll even use something stronger like either glue dots or double stick tape to really get a strong bond. And this could be, either one of these could be the front or the back cover. The reason that I place the whole thing together first is because the strip that's going to go around it will now reinforce that edge that I just glued down and make it hold even better. In order to create the band, I started with just black paper, and you've probably seen me use the white pen before. In this case, I'm just writing giving thanks. So since I can't write upside down, I'll face it towards me, and I'm writing giving thanks. And I want it not to line up, so this time I'm writing thanks giving. And of course it works both ways, whether you say it with the giving in the front or whether you say it with thanks and giving at the end. So you just keep going until you go all the way off. I won't waste any more time on that, but you end up, and even once, I've said this before, even if you don't like your handwriting, when you're creating a continuous pattern, and especially with a white pen on a dark color like black, the repetition of it, even if you're not crazy about your handwriting, you might be surprised at how well you like how it looks. It saves money over buying the pattern paper, and it makes the finished piece really personal because it's your handwriting. So I'm going to go ahead and place adhesive. Once again, remember, you're going to want more than this. I'm just doing enough to hold it together for me to place it together, so for you to see how it goes together. And the reason I'm doing this second is because I want this to reinforce that edge. I'm not decorating it flat. I'm going to wait and add it at this point. And I have to think about which way do I want this to go, the band to go. I think I want it to read like this. So when you write on a diagonal, you kind of have a choice. It could go either way. So I'm going to place it so that, I'm going to try to make it so that I can finish and go overlap off of an edge. So if you want to, you can use paper as a little guide to lay down either here or here to get it nice and straight. But I am going to hope that this comes pretty close to what I want. I'm going to wrap one edge and go all the way over, and then this edge, and you know what, this actually is going to be easier to do if you leave these tags inside. Even if, you know, they're decorated or not decorated yet, it's still easiest to work with this, to have this thickness inside. So now I can really push, and I'm going to wrap around this corner, and if I've done a fairly good job of making it straight, it should line up. So now I'm going to line it up. You can see that I'm off just a touch, which means I'm going to pull this one off and angle it down just a hair and see if that's any better. Yep, that's better. Then go ahead, place this down, and instead of wrapping it any further, I'm going to trim off this excess. So I'll trim the excess off. I give myself a little extra whenever I can because it's easier to just trim off the extra than to worry about where to start it. So now you have something that's going to reinforce that side edge and a nice, you know, continuous band all the way around the front and the back cover. The next layer, I just took shades of paper that I like together, and I used a darker shade on top of a lighter to create this checked paper. So I'm going to go ahead. One of the things that's unique about this, because they're just little squares of paper stuck on, if I try to fold them over an edge, they're probably going to want to pop off. So I'm going to stick this down. I'm going to see if there's a place where I can stick this, and it looks like if I stick it right there, it will work. Whereas I fold over the edge, I'm not folding over one of the orange squares because those are sitting on the top, and I don't want them to pop off as I whoop around the edge. So now I'm going to go around the edge. I can see that it's going to, when I come to this edge here, I'm probably going to have to move that orange one a little bit. I'll go ahead and fasten it down, and then I'll go back and I'll move that. And I'll bring this around so that you can see I'll do the same thing on this side. I'm going to bring this around and then just overlap it. Once again, just trim off the excess. And then I can go back, and you can see that how I have this one kind of, let me just make sure that you can see what I'm referring to. See how it's kind of overlapping the edge? I'm just going to move this. I'm going to wiggle it off because I put it together with removable adhesive. So it's going to let me move it a little bit since it hasn't fully set up yet. And I'm going to do the same thing. See how this one is really wanting to flip off? I could bend it, but my guess is because it's such a little square, it's probably going to keep wanting to pop off. So I'm going to do this. If you have squared checkered paper that isn't made with extra pieces and you don't have to worry about that, that's even easier still. Okay, so at this point you have the band, and now it's time to look at the decoration that's the leaves. These are die cuts, so I'll bring these up and show you. I'll leave it on the green so that it really stands out. It really looks cool if I take and layer them. So if I want a dark red with a lighter red, I think it's easiest to go ahead and put adhesive down first. I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive on this section, and then I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to start, I'm not going to cut the stem in half. That would give me a really skinny little area, but I'm just going to slope it much like the vein on the leaf would be, and I'll try to do this with tweezers so that my hands are out of the way and you can see. And then because it's a die cut, it's going to just line up perfectly with the first one. So I'll create, you know, a nice double color effect. I think I'm going to do the same thing with the yellow. I will go ahead and I'm going to start at the stem and trim up and right through the middle, and then I'll take this, layer this on top of the lighter yellow. If I decided, gee, that's, you know, that light yellow is a little lighter than I wanted, I could always move it over and do a yellow and an orange. I like them both. I'll probably go back and do both. But once you have them layered in as many layers as you want, and these other halves can be used you know, again, this one can go here with this. So once you have them as many as you want, then it's really just a question of going ahead. Some of them are, I like to have them look like they really just fell, like I just tossed them on here and they fell. So when you look at this, you can see that this one is glued directly onto the band, and these two have been raised with just a tiny bit of foam adhesive. Either way, you know, I like both, how it works. And then the final little, a time to give thanks, this was just a rub-on. You could print something on the computer, you could handwrite something in order to finish off what will be the sleeve or the case for the tags that are going to go inside. Now, let's look at those inside tags. And I'll move this out of the way, and I'll bring up the parts and pieces to show how to make this. You want to start first with the tags, and as I said, I think I would cut all the tags first so that when you're building the case you can slide them in and help to reinforce the glue on the bottom. But in order to get the tag shape, I started with just a rectangle. I cut a rectangle that was 4.5 by 6.5 out of just copy paper, just regular old scrap of paper. You fold it in half, and then just using the scissors, and the tag can have as deep of a triangle cut out of it as you want. I'm going to just cut a little triangle section, and because it's folded, that's the key to making sure it's symmetrical. While it's folded, I've marked where I want that hole, just a little spot. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and then I'm going to use a 1/4 inch hole punch and come back in and just punch a hole that would be out of the middle. And that gives you a pattern, and this then becomes the pattern that you use to cut out all the interior pages and to cut out all the divider, the gray. Let me show you, all the gray pages are cut with the same. So once you've created this and you've gone back and you've cut all your tag pages, then it's time to decorate the tag pages. Now I started with the same black paper. I just cut a really long strip of it, and I used it, I think, pretty much on every one of the tags, whether it was a gray divider page or whether it was just one of, like in this case, almost like the title page, that first page. And I'm going to go ahead and align it. Remember I said I usually try to cut it a little bit longer so that I give myself room in case I don't line something up straight. It's easier to go back and trim off a little bit than to find out that you have a big chunk left over, so of white showing or something that you don't want. So at this point, now we're ready to add the rest of the decoration. In order to do that, if you look here, you can see that I've added these strips of yellow. All I did was just took the light yellow, and then I took a deeper shade of yellow marker, and I'm going to, you've seen me do this with the white pen on black. Here I'm just doing it with a deep yellow on top of a light yellow, and I'm going to trim it. Now I'd normally trim it on a paper trimmer, but when I'm going to cut a tiny little piece off, I find it easier. I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive behind it, which now means it's not very easy to put in the paper trimmer. So I'm going to trim off what would be just a skinny little strip that is the equivalent of maybe about 1/8 inch. And as long as I have my scissors here, I'm going to go ahead and cut a fatter strip. This one more like about 1/4 inch. And if you want to, you can cut them on the paper trimmer and add the adhesive after. That's just one of those things that's one of those kind of up to you sort of thing. Okay, so I'm just going to add the fatter strip here to the bottom, and I can see that I didn't cut it as straight. I'm usually a straighter cutter than that. Maybe I should use my paper trimmer and then put the adhesive on later. But if you're a straight cutter, I'm going to add the more narrow one at the top. For some reason, I just feel like visually having the weight of the thicker piece at the bottom, for some reason I just feel like it looks better. I don't know why. And you may feel differently. So at this point, I'm ready to add a couple of other, simple details. First, in order to create, this is going to be the title. So I have just a narrow piece and a fatter piece. I have about 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch piece of 2 shades of sort of a gold and an orange that I'm going to put adhesive on and go ahead and place along the top. And this is where, I'll put, since this is the title page, I'll put what will be the title of the scrapbook. Oh, let me get rid of all these loose pieces. And I'll trim off the excess. And now we're ready to look at the pumpkins. And for the pumpkins, I want to thank Noreen, whose comment on the website referenced how you could cut pumpkins out of 3 circles. And I found that, I'm not sure which way, or maybe there's even more ways than the 2 that came to me. One way was to take, this is one circle punch, this is the same circle punch but cut a second time. This is the same punch but out of a different color of paper that I'm using to place over the top, but I just trimmed a little bit off of each side of the circle in order to get this shape, and I raised the middle with a little bit of foam adhesive. Now if you want to do this a different way, here you can see I've got the circles that I've punched. Here's all 3 of them, and I even have, you are going to need to cut a little green for the stem as well. So here are the 3 circles. Well, it also works kind of nice to go ahead, and I'll put a little bit of adhesive to hold these together, to layer the circles, the orange circles, or whatever, you know, can be the other color combination. Place the 3rd one right in the middle, and you get sort of a fatter, chunkier pumpkin. I'm going to go ahead and I'll put a little bit, you can see if I had decided to trim it off, what I did to create the first one, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put adhesive, the foam adhesive over this, in order to raise up this middle section to give you, you know, kind of another way of making a cool little pumpkin. And then you do need to cut a stem, and the stem is going to sit, you can decide if you want it to sit in the middle layer or in the back layer, but it's just fun. And if you want it to be angled a little more, I kind of think it's, I have to look at it right side up to me, but kind of like it angled a little bit, so I put a little bit of adhesive. So at this point I'm ready to go ahead and fasten this down, and then I would do a smaller version with smaller circles for another little pumpkin to go next to it. And you can see how, thanks to Noreen on the website, you can get this cool effect with just your circle punches. When you look at this sheet, I thought I would show you, these were just stickers, some Mrs. Grossman stickers from the line that I did a while back that are wheat that I've clumped together. Notice how I've used the same band, and then I used a stencil from one of my HSN kits to do the date. And when you go to the menu page, once again, stickers and the same stencil and the same Thanksgiving paper that I created. This time, instead of the checks, I've got a band that's just 2 shades. So you can see how, you know, there's some variation, but in general, there's some continuity that makes it feel like it all kind of goes together. You know, oversized tags, they make perfect pages for a mini book that's themed for fall, or for that matter, for any other occasion. Remember, I love hearing your comments. Be sure to sign up for these free videos if you haven't already done so, and share us with your scrapbooking friends. If you want access to all the past episodes or to be able to download a project sheet, then you might want to consider joining the Gold Club. Bye for now.